Imagine a vehicle rolling across farmland at dawn, silent except for the sound of tires cutting through soil. No diesel smoke. No engine roar. Just power, precision, and purpose. When farmers first saw it in action, many didn't believe what they were witnessing. An electric work vehicle, built specifically for farming, designed not in a global automotive capital, but by Maxwell Chikumbutso. For decades, farmers have been locked into machines that are expensive to run, difficult to maintain, and heavily dependent on fuel. Tractors and utility vehicles built for industrial-scale agriculture often ignore the realities of small and mid-sized farms. Maxwell saw that gap clearly, and instead of adapting an existing EV, he started from scratch. This vehicle isn't about luxury or speed. It's about endurance, torque, and reliability. Built to haul, tow, plow, and power equipment, it delivers instant electric torque where farmers need it most. Low speed, high load work. No warm-up time. No wasted fuel. Just immediate force delivered straight to the wheels. What shocks farmers first is how simple it feels. The controls are intuitive. The drivetrain is modular. Maintenance is minimal. Where traditional farm vehicles rely on complex mechanical systems, Maxwell's design strips things down to essentials, replacing moving parts with intelligent electric systems that are easier to repair and cheaper to operate. Then there's the energy system. Instead of relying solely on grid charging, the vehicle integrates renewable options. Solar-assisted charging, swappable battery modules, and onboard power outputs allow it to run tools, pumps, and lighting directly from the vehicle. In remote areas, it doesn't just move across the farm. It becomes the farm's power source. Field tests reveal something even more surprising. In muddy terrain, uneven ground, and long workdays, the vehicle holds up. Sensors adjust power delivery based on load and surface conditions. Software monitors battery health and energy use in real time, ensuring the vehicle lasts through critical work periods without interruption. Farmers who are skeptical begin to rethink what a work vehicle can be. Lower fuel costs mean higher margins. Fewer breakdowns mean less downtime during planting and harvest. And the quiet operation changes the rhythm of the workday itself. Less noise, less stress, more focus. But Maxwell isn't just solving a mechanical problem. He's addressing an economic one. By designing the vehicle to be locally manufacturable and reparable, he's challenging the global model that forces farmers to rely on imported machines and expensive parts. This EV isn't meant to sit behind locked service centers. It's meant to be understood, owned, and controlled by the people who use it. And as word spreads from one farming community to another, something bigger begins to form. Questions arise. If electric vehicles can outperform fuel-powered machines in the field, what else can be reimagined? What happens when agriculture is no longer tied to volatile fuel prices? What happens when energy independence reaches the farm? Maxwell's electric work vehicle doesn't announce itself as a revolution. It simply shows up, does the work, and keeps going. And in doing so, it quietly challenges everything farmers have been told about power, productivity, and the future of agriculture. Because once the vehicle proves itself in daily use, its impact begins to ripple far beyond a single farm. Farmers start experimenting. Some use the onboard power ports to run irrigation pumps at night. Others connect tools directly, eliminating the need for separate generators. In regions where fuel deliveries are unreliable, the vehicle becomes a lifeline, charged during the day, working long after sunset. What was designed as transport quietly turns into infrastructure. Maxwell anticipated this shift. That's why the vehicle software is built to evolve. Over-the-air updates refine torque delivery for different crops and soil types. New tools are supported through modular attachments. The same platform that hauls produce in the morning can become a mobile workshop by afternoon, then a power station by evening. What truly surprises agricultural experts is how quickly farmers adapt to it. There's no long learning curve, no complicated retraining. The machine fits naturally into existing routines, while gradually changing them for the better. Work becomes more predictable. Costs become easier to manage. Planning extends further into the future. Environmental impact enters the conversation too, but not as a selling point. Farmers notice it themselves. Less exhaust around fields. Healthier air in enclosed barns. Quieter mornings that don't disturb livestock. These changes don't come from regulation or policy. They come from practicality. Meanwhile, Maxwell's team gathers data from real-world use, not controlled demonstrations. Every field, every season, every challenge feeds back into the design. The vehicle learns from the land. And as it learns, it becomes more efficient, more durable, more suited to the realities of farming life. Across regions, a pattern emerges. Where one farmer adopts the vehicle, others follow, not out of hype, but out of results. Conversations shift from curiosity to calculation. Fuel savings. Maintenance costs. Productivity gains. The numbers begin to speak louder than skepticism. But perhaps the most important change is psychological. Farmers begin to see themselves not as passive consumers of technology, but as participants in its evolution. They give feedback. They request features. They modify attachments. For the first time in a long while, innovation feels close, local, responsive, and grounded in real needs. And that raises a much bigger question. If agriculture can be electrified this effectively, this practically, and this fast, what other systems are next? Because Maxwell Chikumbutso didn't just build an electric work vehicle. He built a platform. And once a platform exists, its direction is no longer controlled by a single idea. It's shaped by everyone who uses it. Soon, variations of the vehicle begin appearing across different regions. Configurations optimized for vineyards. Reinforced versions built for livestock hauling. Compact models adapted for smallholder farms where space and maneuverability matter more than size. The same core system, reshaped by real agricultural needs. Maxwell's approach starts to feel less like manufacturing and more like cultivation. The technology grows with the farmers. New attachments emerge: electric plows, smart seeders, mobile cold storage units powered directly by the vehicle's battery. What once required multiple machines now converges into a single, adaptable system. And then comes the unexpected shift. Younger generations, who once saw farming as outdated or unsustainable, begin to look again. The presence of intelligent, electric machinery reframes agriculture as modern, efficient, and future-facing. Farms become places of innovation, not limitation. Work becomes data-driven, energy-aware, and resilient. Even supply chains start to respond. With reduced fuel dependency, logistics become more predictable. Local repair ecosystems emerge. Skills transfer stays within communities instead of flowing outward to distant service centers. The vehicle doesn't just move crops, it keeps value circulating where it's needed most. All of this happens quietly. No grand announcements. No dramatic launches. Just machines working day after day, proving themselves through consistency. And that may be the most disruptive element of all. Because when change arrives without noise, it's harder to resist. And as adoption spreads, attention shifts beyond agriculture. Policymakers begin to notice. Energy planners ask questions. Development agencies watch closely. What started as a tool for farmers begins to look like a blueprint for rural electrification, economic resilience, and self-reliant infrastructure. Yet Maxwell remains focused on the field, on the soil, on the people using the machines before sunrise and after sunset. Every improvement still begins with one question: does this make the work easier, cheaper, and more reliable? And as it takes root, the impact starts to move in directions no one initially predicted. Farmers begin sharing energy between vehicles. One charged unit supports another during peak workloads. Small, informal microgrids form naturally. No complex planning, no central control. Just cooperation, enabled by technology that was designed to be flexible instead of restrictive. What used to be isolated operations slowly become connected systems. Seasonal challenges that once dictated outcomes begin to loosen their grip. During harvest, extended work hours no longer mean burning more fuel or worrying about supply shortages. During planting, precise torque control protects soil structure, improving yields over time. Subtle advantages compound quietly, season after season. Researchers start paying attention. Data collected from thousands of real farming hours reveals patterns that were previously invisible. Energy usage tied to crop types. Terrain responses linked to weather cycles. The vehicle becomes a moving sensor network, capturing agricultural intelligence at a scale that was never economically possible before. And with that knowledge comes leverage. Farmers negotiate better. They plan smarter. They reduce waste. They invest with confidence. Decisions once based on intuition alone are now supported by evidence gathered directly from their own land. The machine doesn't replace experience, it amplifies it. What's most striking is how naturally this transition happens. There's no forced adoption, no dependency on subsidies or mandates. The shift occurs because the tool works, because it respects the realities of farming rather than demanding that farmers adapt to it. Across regions, a quiet realization spreads. This isn't just an electric vehicle story. It's a power story. Who controls energy? Who controls data? Who controls productivity? And for the first time in a long time, those controls are moving closer to the people who do the work. Maxwell's electric work vehicle continues to roll through fields, through seasons, through skepticism and acceptance alike. It doesn't claim to be the future. It simply behaves like one. And somewhere between the first sunrise ignition and the last task completed at dusk, a line is crossed, subtle, almost invisible. Because once farming changes at the foundation level, and once that foundation shifts, the effects don't stay confined to the field. Local workshops begin adapting. Mechanics who once specialized in fuel systems retrain, becoming battery technicians and software troubleshooters. Instead of waiting weeks for imported parts, communities start fabricating components locally. Knowledge spreads sideways, not downward. Control decentralizes. Education follows. Agricultural schools update their curricula. Students learn not just how to operate machinery, but how to understand energy flows, data feedback, and system efficiency. Farming becomes a discipline where technology and tradition intersect, rather than collide. Even financing starts to change. Lenders, seeing reduced operating costs and more predictable outputs, reassess risk. Access to credit improves. Farmers who were once considered too small or too remote suddenly look viable. A machine that began as a tool quietly becomes proof of stability. And through it all, Maxwell remains almost absent from the spotlight. No constant press cycle. No exaggerated promises. Just iteration. Refinement. Listening. Each update responds to something real. A broken tool. A missed opportunity. A farmer's frustration turned into a design note. The vehicle keeps evolving. Batteries become more resilient. Attachments more specialized. Software more aware. But the core philosophy stays untouched. Technology must serve the work, not the other way around. What's happening now isn't a headline moment. It's something slower, deeper. A shift that only becomes obvious once it's already too late to reverse. Because when farmers gain control over energy, mobility, and data at the same time, the balance of power changes permanently. And this electric work vehicle, quiet, practical, almost unremarkable at first glance, keeps moving forward, one task at a time. Still working, still adapting. And as it keeps rewriting what's possible, the contrast with the old way of doing things becomes impossible to ignore. Fuel prices fluctuate. Supply chains tighten. Traditional machines sit idle, waiting for parts or deliveries. But in fields where Maxwell's vehicle operates, work continues. Energy is generated, stored, shared. Downtime shrinks. Planning horizons stretch further into the future. Stability, once a luxury, becomes routine. This resilience starts attracting attention beyond farming circles. Engineers visit farms instead of boardrooms. Policymakers stop asking if electrification can work in rural areas and begin asking how fast it can scale. What was once labeled experimental now looks inevitable. Yet the most powerful moments remain small and personal. A farmer finishing harvest without worrying about fuel. A family using the vehicle's power system during an outage. A young apprentice learning both agriculture and advanced technology from the same machine. These aren't press releases. They're lived experiences. Maxwell's electric work vehicle doesn't dominate the landscape, it blends into it. And that may be its greatest strength. Because real change rarely arrives as spectacle. It arrives as something useful, repeated until it becomes normal. Day after day, season after season, the vehicle proves that innovation doesn't have to be loud to be revolutionary. It just has to work where it matters most. And somewhere along the way, a quiet truth becomes undeniable. This was never just about an electric vehicle for farmers. And that is where the story truly settles. Maxwell Chikumbutso didn't set out to impress the world. He set out to solve a problem that farmers had quietly carried for generations, dependence on systems they couldn't control. By building a machine that delivers power, mobility, and intelligence directly into their hands, he shifted something fundamental. This electric work vehicle doesn't promise miracles. It offers something far more powerful: reliability. Day after day, season after season. In doing so, it changes how farmers think about risk, investment, and the future itself. The shock wasn't the technology. The shock was what happened when it worked. Because once farmers experience independence, energy independence, operational independence, economic independence, they don't go back. And when that shift happens at the foundation of society, its effects move upward, quietly reshaping everything built on top of it. The fields don't look different yet. The work still begins before sunrise. But something has changed beneath the surface. A new kind of power is moving through agriculture. And this time, it belongs to the people who feed the world.